Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Caruso III, and I am the publisher of the Capital Sports Report. I am also the host of the Capital Sports Report Live. As always, I am joined by Susan Wade, a longtime sports journalist who writes for Auto Week, Dragzine, and Competition Plus. Today, our guest is three-time Top Fuel champion Larry Dixon. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you for having me on.
Welcome.
Larry, the question that a lot of fans want to know is, are you going to come back one day? You were banned for a time, and now that's no longer in place. So fans want to know, are you going to come back one day?
It wasn't. Am I going to come back? I would say there's probably a 90% chance that probably won't happen. Not because I don't love the sport or love driving or love racing top fuel cars. It's just the dollars and cents, getting the proper funding, trying to come up with a company that you could sell the sport to, for what it actually costs to do it, and then be able to show a solid return on their investment. And, at one point in time, it made a ton of sense. You saw companies like Budweiser and Miller and, Skoll and geez, so many different companies. And it's gotten, it's very expensive. And, everybody's looking out for their dollars and cents. And it's been, some guys are doing it. And obviously you see new teams coming up like Tony Stewart's or Antron Brown or Ron Capps. And it just hadn't worked for me. So it's not because I don't love the sport. It's just the hard, cold facts.
The dollars and cents.
Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why you don't see Don Prudhomme out there or Kenny Bernstein out there or Alan Johnson, having his own team, or Bob Vandergriff. I mean, you could go on and on. A lot of people, the sport's got, a lot of people love the sport. It's just, hadn't figured out how to, get it covered as far as, paying for it yet.
Okay. Recently, as of January, you were in Australia, racing for a familiar team that you have raced here. I'm going to show a picture here. It's processing. Of you with the Rapisarda Autosport team. Could you talk about your experience racing for them this past January?
It was a lot of fun, and it really it was a last minute deal. That their country is really they're still pretty tight as far as COVID goes and vaccinations, and going from state to state in their country. Without quarantine, while all that was going on with me, you saw that Novak Djokovic actually get deported from the country over vaccination and being very transparent of his travel and all of that, and it didn't work, and he got sent home. So they take it really serious over there. In my case, I was vaccinated. They were able to get me a travel basically a pass to be able to get in the country, to be able to run the car. Whereas down there, they got Damian Harris and Wayne Newby that drive their cars. Well, Wayne's there in the state where Sydney's at. Well, Damian isn't. So if he was to travel to Sydney, he could get in, but then he wouldn't be able to get back out for 14 days. And he's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got a business, and to just be holed up in a hotel room somewhere quarantined, it didn't allow him. So flew down there on a Thursday, got in the car, ran Friday and Saturday, and then caught my breath on Sunday and jumped on a plane home on Monday. So it was a real quick trip. But it was good. No Cinderella story as far as winning the event. It was kind of the normal old deals. Had a clutch problem, and it spun the tires in the middle of the track. We got beat, and that was it. So we went a couple rounds, but it was fun. I hadn't lined up for anybody in a real points paying event since, oh my gosh, 2016. So it's been a little while, but it was felt great. I love driving Top Fuel cars. I'll do a match race the car I have a few times a year at Martin or Cordova, or if the borders aren't locked, I can run over at Grand Bend or something. And I run the two-seater quite a bit too, so that kind of gives me a little bit of a fix as well, running the two-seater. So still a Top Fuel car, it still runs good, still makes a ton of power. So we had some fun, but Australia was a good time.
And Susan told me it was like a 2-day rush to get you over there.
Yeah.
It's 24-hour flight. You fly from Indy, then you fly to Indy to Atlanta to LA. Had a 3-hour it ended up being a 5-hour layover in LA, and then it's 14 hours or something like that on the plane from LA to Sydney. So it's 24 hours flying, but the time change. So I got on a plane Tuesday afternoon. I landed on Thursday at lunchtime, noon.
Wow.
Wow.
So really, you had the rest of the day. Got the rigs out to the track and set up the awnings and the pit and all that, and we're racing the next day. But I left on Tuesday to get there. So
That's
Wow.
crazy.
but on the other side of it, I got on a plane Monday morning, and I got back Monday afternoon with the time change. So you get it back. So it was a good time though.
And you've raced there before, right? So I mean, and it wasn't quite as rushed that time.
Oh yeah. No, but 2013, 14, not sure about 15, and for sure I was down there in 2016 as well. So it was good. With them going from quarter mile to 1,000 foot, because that's what they're running all their races to 1,000 foot now. I'm still the national record holder in quarter mile down there. So, and if they never go back, that'll be a record that never gets broken. So I like that part of it. It's kind of neat.
Well, I hear you saw something really interesting at the turnout.
Kangaroos. That was they don't think anything about it. It'd be like us here with a deer or something like that. But you got kangaroo running around. There was one just sitting down at the turnout. I just like, oh my God, somebody grab their phone, take a picture of it. Had to post about it.
That could cause real trouble though if it got on the track,
Oh, so. Yeah, it could, but I think the nitro cars woke them up and they wanted to see what all the action was about.
I love that. So now, right now you're working for brakes, is that correct? Are you an instructor for brakes still?
I am an instructor. Try to see if I can get you guys some more. There we go. Get some light. There we go.
Your handsome face now.
So probably try and do anywhere from 6 to 10 weekends a year with brakes. Coast to coast. Gosh, I've been doing that since 2018 maybe. I started doing that, and 2018 or 19. But I'll do 6, 8, 10 weekends a year across the country. I've done it at Pomona, gone Cleveland, North Carolina. Michigan, quite a bit up in Michigan, Kansas Speedway. Been there as well too. So St. Louis, been to Gateway as well with it. So really travel around. I had 2 of my 3 kids have run through the brakes course. I've known Doug Herbert since high school. Like, we worked at a chain of speed shops that were in Southern California. So that's when I originally met him, before we really took off and went, we both went alcohol dragster racing, and then both went top fuel racing. And, like, I was with him in Phoenix. We were testing out there when he got the phone call, on his boys, John and James. He had to sit in the airport for a couple hours, and knowing what he's got to go home to. And it's terrible, but out of that tragedy, he's he come up with this defensive driving school, because he didn't want any of his John and James's friends parents to get that same phone call he did. So he started it, and he originally thought he was just going to do that class, and then the word spread, and then it was like more parents, hey, we want do more and more. Well, they've passed the threshold of 50,000 that they've taught now, which I think is so cool. And it's like, if you run 50,000 people through there, and you save one life, you've saved more than one. But if you've saved one, you've saved one. Like, it's that's cooler than winning a race. I mean, I'm telling you. And when you're in the passenger seat, and you got with the teens, and they're driving, and the light kind of goes off, like when they get it on what you're teaching them, that is the greatest, awesomest thing in the world. And I'm really proud to be a part of that, because it's a big deal. That's something that you'll affect a person's life for the rest of their lives. So it's a neat deal. It's very,
and it's free. It's free to these families, isn't it?
It's free. Yeah. Yes. That's, they didn't want to be any excuse why somebody didn't sign up. You can, obviously, some towns like Pomona, LA and Charlotte, there could be, and this is before COVID, there could be a 2-year waiting list. So they put they have the families put $100 deposit down, and you're more than welcome to, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like
It's a nonprofit. So,
yeah.
But you can donate, like, if you think it's been worth it. And a lot of those donations that the parents on that $100 deposit, that funds maybe 25% of the schools. So, but you do have big companies like Kia and GM and such. I'm at a loss on that. But there's a lot of corporations that will also help donate, because they think it's paying it forward. It's such an awesome deal. So my last one, my youngest is 15 and a half, just got his permit. So when as soon as I can, and it'll be within the next few months, so we'll definitely get him run through the class as well too.
And BRAKES is BRAKES, stands for
be responsible and keep everyone safe. And John and James, their classmates came up with it. What I think is it's such a great thing. And the instructors too. I mean, they have a pool of probably a couple hundred instructors. 30 will come in, for a weekend. But they're all from either the law enforcement or like Secret Service, racing, or a stunt background. So you really have, I mean, it isn't people just off the street that are instructors. I mean, I've done schools where there's been IndyCar drivers that have done classes. And there's people kind of really across the board. A lot of people, like at the Charlotte classes, that are in NASCAR as well too. So it's a really cool deal. And again, it's anybody that's listening that's interested in signing up their teens, it's putonthebrakes.org, and you can go to the website and you can see the schedule and sign up.
You read my mind, because I was going to say, tell everybody where they can learn more about that. So that's awesome. And when kids get in the class that you're teaching, they're getting taught by a Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Fame member. How cool is that?
Some of the parents that impresses, but you got to remember, like like my last championship was 11 years ago.
2010.
Well, if you're teaching a 15-year-old, they don't know, and that's fine. And it's not, you're not going there to be praised. You're going there to try and help them. Like I try to tell people, it's you're teaching that, you're putting them in out of control situations in a controlled environment, and then you have somebody in the passenger seat that is basically training them. So I mean, to be able to know how to steer out of an oily or an icy road condition where the back end of the car might try to wash out or something like that. And a lot of times people will panic, and then you end up in a ditch, or you might end up in oncoming traffic, or you might end up in hitting a mailbox or a curb or something like that. And it's like, because you don't have any practice doing that, and then you don't have anybody training you at the same time. So if you can put the teens through these situations, so when they come across those kind of conditions in real life, they know what to do without panicking.
What is the age range again? What is the minimum age range for that?
You got to have a permit at least, and you got to have some driving time. So you need to go through basic, driver's ed. So and then beyond that, so I would say it's 15 and a half to 19. So it's dedicated to teens. I mean, that's what it is, but it's a proactive defensive driving course for teens. So that there's I've seen cases where well, even in my case, where you'll have younger kids, like that their older brothers or sisters have gone through, and then you got another group coming through, and you see that a lot with other families as well too. And then what happens is then the teens end up going home, because like in the case of my oldest, you get up at 6 a.m. and you're going to drive to the course, and they don't want to go because they already know how to drive, they already got a permit and all this kind of stuff. And then you get pretty much like let loose out on a racetrack, or in a huge parking lot, and you're spinning cars out, and you're swerving through a slalom course, and you're doing hard braking, and you're learning how anti-lock brake system works on the car and how it functions. You start doing all these things, they all love it. So then when they come home, like my oldest, he was just so animated, and then he tells his siblings, brother and sister about it. And then you fast forward a couple of years, when it was time for his sister to go through, it wasn't me signing her up. She came to me and say, "Hey Dad, when can I go to the brakes class?" And that's like, I mean, that's when you get you get approval from another teenager that this is a fun class and it's something they're going to learn, and then they normally sign up. But that same effect happens to other teens when they go home, and they tell their friends about it, and then they end up signing up. And it's how again, it's a network. We can't. I wish there was more classes. They'll end up doing this year, and it's still been slow because of COVID. Getting a whole state to state, it's so different. All the regulations and stuff. But they'll do 50 weekends this year, so they'll be running on simultaneous weekends. On the East Coast and the West Coast and the Midwest as well too. So it's always going. I'm glad you brought it up. But,
yeah, that's kudos to Doug Herbert for doing that, and kudos to all of you who participate in it. So I know Alan Johnson, the Pro Stock driver, not Alan Johnson Top Fuel, but Alan Johnson Pro Stock. I think he has paid for groups to come down to Bristol.
And some of the fundraisers and stuff, I know he's paid for weekends, which is awesome. And you think that you have, like, how can you have, and you can have such a huge effect on so many people, by doing that. And it's he's got a great heart. Yeah, and he's done that more than once. Really good people, great family.
Yeah, and let's get back to that Hall of Fame thing for you. You were in there. You were inducted last year. It was a funny year because they had 2 inductions, right? I think yours was the first one of the year. Is that correct? Or yours was the second? I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, they did because of COVID. They didn't have one in 2020. So then they basically combined the two. They had 2 separate evenings, but all in, like on a Monday, Tuesday night up at the M1 concourse up in Detroit, which
is
is a
that
really awesome place.
I was just going to ask, is that
But
pretty spectacular?
yeah, it was a great facility. I mean, it's a private road course and there's condos and garages and the like there, and it's in the middle of the Motor City. There's this like small area where they've got it all crammed in, but it's such a beautiful facility. If I probably wouldn't have ever got an opportunity to see that otherwise. So going there and doing that, and my class had such great. I was so. I went in with Davey Allison, which was, I'm an organ donor, literally because of Davey Allison. When he lost his life, and he was an organ donor, and his organs went to a lot of other people and saved a lot of people. And I thought, like, how freaking awesome, like, to have an impact on somebody's lives after you're not here anymore. So it made me sign up for the same thing. So I got to go in, and Bobby was there, and his wife Liz was there as well. So it was really a neat deal. Nikki Hayden as well went in, and his brother rode his bike a lap around the concourse with the American flag, kind of just like Nikki did it. And it literally brought tears to my eyes because it was just it was a neat deal. And his father was there as well too, and he just lost his life over the winter time, which is obviously a bummer. But it was great to see the family. So and Judy Stropus went in, but Judy, she did all of our media work when we were with GM, back in the early 2000s, late 90s.
And
so
and
it
later
was a great class.
Judy is still, I think she's still pretty active in the sports car scene, so that's pretty cool. So
for sure.
I think Robin Miller was also in your class, was he not? So Robin was in your class as well.
Robin Miller was in my class. They did a special ceremony for him because he was pretty ailing, by the time summer came around, and so they did the ceremony during the month of at the Speedway during the 500, and it was real neat because then it was a couple weeks later that he finally succumbed. Just the cancer got got the best of him. Hated that, but got to go in with Robin Miller as well too. It was a real neat deal.
And then you went back just a few weeks ago for Dick LaHaye, correct?
Yeah, just got literally last week, week and a half ago. And Dick LaHaye's family, which consists of his son and daughter, Kim and Jeff. They asked me to introduce their dad, and I couldn't. That was really special for me because he made such a difference for me on the track and off the racetrack. He just, it really felt like he cared for me like I was his son, and it just, it was really special for me to be able to do. It was great. I almost feel more honored in introducing him than I did myself going in the class the year before. It was just such a big deal. And then they have the bronze plaques, and at the Hall of Fame Museum is at the Daytona Speedway, and so that they have a plaque of your face that goes on display right there at the museum.
I think their sound went out.
The long story of it is
I can't hear nothing.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Anthony, struggling to hear me?
Anthony, we can hear you. Well,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I can always hear you.
No. Larry can't hear me.
Oh, we can hear you.
Hold
You
on.
can't hear
Technical
us.
difficulties here.
You know what? Last week was me, so, so stuff happens. It's just what happens when you're going live, right?
For sure.
We'll just keep talking here, and go ahead. You were talking about the Hall of Fame. And
So,
they
so
have these
they do
plaques.
they do
I can't see
your
them.
face on a plaque that ends up on display down at the Speedway Museum. And with me going in 2020 and LaHaye going in 2021, I'm going to be side by side with LaHaye. And so,
Oh, perfect.
I know, yeah, I'm loving it. So it was a great going in 2020 and LaHaye going in 2021. And so
now we're hearing you twice.
yeah,
Anthony, it was such a good story. We get to tell it twice, right? Anthony, can you hear us? Because we're hearing everything Larry just said.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't hear anyone.
I'm sorry. Can you read lips? While Anthony's dealing with that, I wanted to throw something in there about Dick LaHaye that I think is the coolest story. Is that, and Kim told me this, is that when years ago when she was living in California, no, I can't remember. One of them was living in Michigan and one was living in California at the time, and she needed to put an engine together, and she didn't know what to do, so she called her dad, and Dick says, just take everything apart and spread it all out on the floor. And then when you get that done, call me back. And he talked her on the phone through putting this engine together from absolutely nothing. That's impossible for both things, for both sides. And they did it. The two of them did that. That's very awesome.
That's yeah. That oh, just lost my phone. I guess that tells you the skill level of both of them, actually.
Yes, it's pretty cool. But then, and I blew this story, Larry. I will be the first to admit I blew this story because you brought it to my attention, and I didn't get to write about it. But Kim also saw her father go into the Hall of Fame of America, Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. Then, 3 days later, she got to see her husband go into the International
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what that was all about, but we will just keep going here until hopefully Anthony can join us.
Sorry, my one device went out, so now I'm back and you can hear me.
Yay, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Technical difficulties, but it all got it figured out.
Well, Larry was just talking about Kim Richards watching her dad's induction and then going to see her husband's induction in a different Hall of Fame 3 days later. So, were you there for that one as well in Gainesville?
I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the Gainesville one. But I was. It's neat. All of a sudden it's like you think, how's Tim Richards not in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, I mean, he won all them championships with Amato, and then again with Bernstein, and he was a great an innovator as well. I mean, everybody's got that tall wing in the back of the, back of the real up high in the back of the top fuel cars, really because Joe Amato and Tim Richards. They were the first ones to do it. I mean, they used to mount the wings low and back, not so far back, but low, kind of more like an IndyCar was in the 70s. And then they got with an Eldon Rasmussen here in Indianapolis, and they took a much smaller wing and just more trim, and they brought it up real high and far back and just run it real trim, and it allowed them to go through the air a lot better, and they broke the 260 mile an hour when guys were struggling to go 250, and all of a sudden they go to Gainesville with this thing. They're the only one in the pit that's got a wing up back like that and went over 260 with it. Well, obviously by the next race, everybody's got their wings, little wings on it, high, back, all that kind of stuff. certainly he was definitely an innovator. Did a lot of great things in the sport, and it was great to see Tim Richards go in the Hall of Fame as well.
That's good. I did not know he did that with Eldon Rasmussen. That's interesting. Did you know that Eldon Rasmussen used to have a go-kart track in Indianapolis?
I know. I mean, yeah, I didn't follow IndyCar as much, obviously, as drag racing, but I know he was definitely heavily involved in the IndyCar world for sure.
Yeah, he and I have the same birthday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
Nice.
I haven't seen him in. What's that?
Really hard for both of your parents to plan that far back to make that happen.
But they did. Kudos to them, right? But yeah, I think Anthony probably has been busted and got to say something now.
Yeah, before I actually go to the next thing, I would like to play a video from yesteryear for you, Larry.
This is
I didn't hear that.
Oh, I'm going to play a video from yesteryear, from when you were racing.
Oh, okay.
It's
Awesome.
from Brainerd, when you set the track record.
What was wrong with that left lane? 3.791, 326.63, and Larry Dixon goes to the top.
That was good. I got a lot of props from my crew actually on that run. I kind of actually remember it from the standpoint is that car. I mean, it had the front end up and it was carrying it out, and just had to help it along early in the run. Mike Guger was a crew chief along with Joe Barlam, and yeah, they gave me a lot of props for helping that car along on that run that time. So it's fun every once in a while when a driver can help the team, get a good run in.
Next, I would like to bring up this, and it's going to be the two-seater. Here's the Nitro Times 2 two-seater that you debuted in 2017. There was some issues with it initially, but hopefully that's all cleared now. But you raced this for select individuals who pay you a good chunk of change to bring the two-seater out. Can you talk about what it's like for you to work with these individuals to get them the thrill of their life?
I guess it depends on who you talk to on whether or not you think it's a chunk of change.
Well, it's a lot of money. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, you talk to a Don Schumacher and he tells you he has no idea how I can do it so cheap. And then you've got other people that's like, oh my gosh, and it's like, well, like have you ever tried to run and maintain a top fuel car? They're not cheap.
It's about 10,000 I believe.
Yeah, and insurance eats up quite a bit of that cost to be able to do it. But yeah, I mean, we run that car. We run it 8th mile. We don't go 1,000 foot or quarter mile or anything like that. Anybody that wants to taste that, we've got a regular top fuel car and they can just drive down the track themselves and do it. But to be able to share that acceleration of what a top fuel car actually feels like going down the racetrack instead of just hearing it from, Antron Brown and the like, you hear it, you do it. You could actually do it yourself, and it's a real car. It's not a dumbed down Disneyland ride. I mean, it's we're putting a clutch in the car every run. And you're putting rods and pistons in it every run, and then people like I've had a lot of people like, wow, like you're doing this serious, and I'm like, yeah, well, I am a very proud person of the top fuel class, and it's like if I'm selling somebody a ride in a top fuel car, it's going to be a real ride. It's not going to be a slow. Everywhere we run that car at events, we normally end up being low ET and top speed of the meet. And we've run at nostalgia meets, we've run jet car meets, we've run pro mod meets, and that car outruns all of them. So when you're taking that person for a ride down the track, they're normally going to be the quickest one on the grounds. And for me, I love that. Like you're literally sharing what you do, and they get a big taste of it. Now, we've been doing it long enough now that I'm starting to get, people that have gone for rides already, they want to go again. So like I'm getting ready to go to out in May, actually going to a little track in South Carolina, and I got a couple of people that have already gone for rides in the Top Fuel car. They're going to go again. So it's and then the same thing. I've got somebody else that's going that went a couple of years ago, and he's going up at Martin this summer. So it's a neat deal. It's not for every obvious, and not everybody in the world thinks it's the best idea. And I'm okay with that too. That's their prerogative. But for the ones that want to do it, we have that luxury we can offer.
How fast does that two-seater go? Is it as fast as like?
Okay, so we
300?
run the car 8th mile. So like you're going to run somewhere in the 3 ET wise, 320 to 330 ET, and that speed will keep you somewhere in the like 250 to 260 range, which is cars heavier than a regular Top Fuel car, because you got another you got another person, you got a whole nother roll cage cockpit as well too. But it runs 9 flat 60-foot times, and other than a Top Fuel car or a funny car, it's out accelerating pro mod cars. It's out accelerating pro stock cars, alcohol dragsters, alcohol funny cars. So the only things left at the track that it doesn't out accelerate are the real, the single seat Top Fuel cars and funny cars. So it does we try and do it. Obviously safety, like I've been really proactive on safety my entire career, in life out in drag racing. So, like we make sure that we've got everything, that we've overdone everything that we possibly can do. The sport's still dangerous, obviously. But, I think I'm living proof that, your safety equipment will take care of you as long as you respect it and you use it. Because I've had bad things happen to me on the racetrack, but the fact that I'm still here talking to you lets you know that it's you can set up those cars fairly safe, because and we want that so that person's having a fun ride. But we tell them, we make it point blank. We're serious. Like it's a real car. Bad things can happen. But that's why we wear all this equipment, and that's why we got all these cages and Hans device and all the layers of fireproof protective suits and stuff to make it as safe as we can. And I haven't to date I haven't had anybody disappointed. Everybody's had a ball.
You talk about safety, and one thing that most fans are going to remember for you, a lot of them are going to remember that Gainesville crash, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a serious crash. But because I went through that same type of crash in 2000 in Memphis, all the things that were learned out of the 2000 crash, some things have gotten mandated, through the course of time, and other things haven't. So you definitely have to be, as a competitor, you have to think of the safety portion of the rule book as a minimum standard. It's not the maximum. There's other things that you can do to make your world safer for you, and you shouldn't just rely on the rule book to take care of you. So we, and I think proof's in the pudding. From the standpoint, in 2000, gosh, yeah, I my head hit so hard on the roll cage it split my helmet. I broke a blood vessel in my eye. I got a concussion out of the deal. I broke my leg. Got knocked out. Got a helicopter ride to the hospital. Spent the night in the hospital. So that was in 2000. Fast forward to 2015. 15 years later, go through the same thing. With the head padding and the extra harnesses that we got nowadays. The Hans device didn't have a Hans in 2000. all that stuff. And I got out of the car on my own. So it kind of lets you know, no broken legs, no helicopter rides, all that. And so it's really a credit to the safety equipment companies and the designers of the cars that there's things that you can, you're always striving to make them safe. I mean, Prudhomme used to say if these cars were safe, people would still be wearing leather caps and driving t-shirts, but through the course of time, you're always learning, when there's incidents on the track, there's always something to be learned. I've always had my mouth shut and my ears open. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I try to pay attention and see what can be learned to try and make your world safer.
Now, this past weekend, you follow IndyCar. I don't know how much you followed this incident with Jack Harvey on the track when he crashed, and then he was not cleared to race the actual race because of the G-forces that he experienced when he hit, I guess, their sensors in their helmets. And does that, I don't know how much you know about that, and now if you think that sounds like something that maybe NHRA should try in drag racing. Is that something that could carry over?
Well, I think it's there was a lot of development. We especially when you could get like the factories like a GM, Ford, or Toyota, Dodge. They can bring in their safety groups. And they have such a stronger budget than say NHRA themselves or any individual team. And you can have some of that crossover development that take place. At one point, like the Ford teams, they had all they had G meters, built into the earplugs, and so you could wear those and be able to monitor, the G forces that are on the body. Fortunately, in drag racing, it doesn't seem to be as many incidents as that you might see in Cup or IndyCar. But definitely, there are things to learn. I know my crash they had crash boxes at the time on the cars in Top Fuel and Funny Car. And so when I landed at Gainesville that time, I hit at 108 Gs. It is what I hit. And then then it bounced and then went and hit the wall. And that wall, it was 47 Gs. So, I mean, and I walked away from it. So, I mean, it lets you know, if you've got all that safety equipment and it's all in there and that you're using it and which brought it, and then sharing that knowledge across, which I think is great. I think where you're talking about with Fort Worth and IndyCar and then crossing over into either NASCAR or to NHRA. There are things to be learned because when I came back up to Indy, I went and met with Dr. Trammell, and then he wanted to look at the data from the run, and so he looked at it. Well, then he immediately wanted to come to the shop and look at my seat, because he had this wasn't long after Dario Franchitti. He crashed with and his crash was at 112 Gs. And he's retired from racing from that crash. And here I am, 108 Gs, and I'm racing 2 weeks later in Charlotte. So, again, I think that there's always things to be learned. Same thing. I didn't get to see. I saw a picture of the end result of his car when it was at the pit, but I didn't get to see the incident. So I can't really comment. But, there's data that you can share across the board that absolutely positively will help all of motorsports, and I think it's really important that the sanctioning bodies are open to that information, and that the manufacturers, the Hondas and Toyotas and GMs and Fords and Dodges, that they're, everybody's working together to keep us all safe. Because you can have a bad day, and but if you have a bad day like that and you can still walk away, then it wasn't that bad of a day.
And I think we saw that too with Leah Pruitt at St. Louis. couple years ago, and
Yep.
I suspect they must have learned something from your accident at Gainesville, if not the one from Memphis, and Tony Schumacher's as well. But
And
you were,
Larry, your picture from Gainesville is up right now of your crash.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. Yeah, that's a
let's don't
mess.
give him
Isn't it?
nightmares.
Oh gosh, I ain't got no nightmares. The fact that when you walk away from something like that, there's nothing scary about it. It's just the opposite, that you can have something like that happen and be okay. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, that's what gives you the confidence to be able to get back in the car 2 weeks later, that you know that everything that we did to prepare the car, and had the car take care of me. So like, it really wasn't, it's not really that big a deal for me at all. Like,
That's a good point.
So,
that's
just,
the difference between you and us. We're chicken. That's the difference between you and us.
yeah, well, you might have a little bit more logic than me, but that's okay. We all
You had
know
more
our
fun.
roles. Yeah.
What's
You
that?
don't take my job, and I won't take yours.
There you go. There are days when I'd say you can have it. I'd be glad to trade. But now with the two-seater that Anthony was asking me about, you got some interesting advice from someone else who's got a two-seater. Famous race driver.
Yeah, Mario.
Yeah.
So originally when we came up with the idea of doing the car, I reached out to the ownership of the IndyCar experience. I've known those guys for I've been living in Indy for over 20 years, but we've been coming here and spending our summers here since the mid 80s. So you know all these people, and like, everybody's racers. So yeah. So when I met with IndyCar experience, there goes my phone again. There we go. Met with them, and they invited me out to one of their events to see how they do it. And so I got to ride with Mario, and Mario wants to go for a ride, which I think is awesome. I think it would be great for our sport. I'm kind of almost like, I'm hoping that that the powers to be think that might be a good opportunity to cross promote our sport with other forms of motorsport, and to really be able to take advantage of it. I would love to see me give Mario a ride during before the start of the U.S. Nationals, Labor Day weekend. And then here you have one of the greatest names in all of motorsports history, of Mario Andretti, being at Indy, and seeing what we do, and see why we're all so ate up about the sport of drag racing. But he's all in. He wants to do it. So I'm hopeful that we could do it at Indianapolis one day.
Yeah, let's get him out there. If you're NHRA, if you're listening, there you go. Are you on good terms with NHRA now?
I think so. Yeah, we've settled our differences. So we're all good on that side of things. They I want to say this properly, so I'm not like misspoken when I say it. Initially, they were very enthusiastic about my concept, and then later on, when it became reality, the legal department wasn't as crazy about it as maybe marketing or some of the other people in upper management. So that's kind of how I got pinched on the whole deal. So we've kind of all settled our differences now. I'm just not, we can't take the car onto their racetracks until they give me the blessing. So I don't take it on their tracks. I take it to other tracks that want to see the car and want us to run the car. So I'll keep doing that until they, see the light.
How long could that be?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still pretty young. I think I might outlast some of them. So I'll keep doing it. It's a neat deal. I think it can do nothing but bring positives to the sport. it's not an original idea. It's original maybe to our sport of drag racing, like our sport drag racing, the two-seaters that they have. Sorry about that. But the sport of drag racing, the two-seaters are, I mean, no offense to anybody that has a two-seat experience in drag racing, but they go slower than a bone stock Dodge Hellcat off the showroom floor. I could buy a Hellcat and go down the track quicker and faster than one of those two-seat, dragsters. So, like, that's kind of the whole idea. Like, you don't see a really slow IndyCar, really slow NASCAR two-seat experiences. It's actually an experience of what they are actually doing, not something that goes really slow. So build a two-seat Top Fuel car so people can actually experience, what a Top Fuel, a nitro-powered car would feel like accelerating down the racetrack. So it's not an original idea. And it's done a lot of great value for the other sanctioning bodies. I mean, there's two-seat. My shop's next door to Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s World of Outlaws. They have a World of Outlaws two-seater. So, I mean, you can go in a two-seat World of Outlaw car and go sideways around the track, slinging mud and doing all that kind of stuff. That's fun. They've got two-seat MotoGP. You can hang on the back of somebody and go 180 miles an hour around a road course. I don't know that I'm that much of a thrill seeker. I like my sport of drag racing. I feel pretty safe in a Top Fuel car doing that. And, people that want to experience a Top Fuel car, that's what you do. So, but, like seeing what IndyCar has done with the IndyCar experience, when Penske took over the series, the speedway itself, he wanted the two-seater part of it, and it is. And then you see celebrities like Lady Gaga go around the racetrack to start, the greatest spectacle in racing. Like I would like to see our sport put its arms around it at some point in time. I mean, it doesn't got to be today, whenever they're comfortable, but I think it can do a lot of positives for marketing and promoting our sport. It really can.
You touched on right now. You're at IRP. You're helping Steve Johnson. Your friendship with Steve Johnson has gone on for 27 years now, 26 years. And when Steve was in a pinch last year, you got the call, or you voluntarily offered to help him when Jack accidentally shot himself in the thigh. So you helped him on the pro stock bike. Right now, you're at the racetrack. You were helping Steve Johnson today. Could you talk about working with him? Because it's a bit different from going from your Top Fuel Dragster when you worked on those to now working on a bike when you have the time.
Well, the backs, like real quick, so Steve was wanting to test. I think over the weekend, Karen Stouffer, I think, threw the gauntlet at everybody that has a pro stock motorcycle. So there was a test out there, and so a few of the teams, including Vance and Hines, were running. And so Steve came up from Birmingham to be able to run today out at IRP. Leah Pruitt was running, they didn't make the cut at Gainesville. So they were sorting some things out and running. So it was kind of a mini test for people that wanted to work on their game. So Steve drove up, not his, and he doesn't have a lot of full-time help, meaning Jock, his crew chief, is his sole help, and him and his wife, they have a newborn. And so instead of Jock coming up and missing a couple days from his baby and his wife, they put me in the I'm not in the crew chief role, but I put me in Jock. so I was doing the clutch. So Steve made runs. He made 3 runs today. Some good runs in the 670s. Did really well. Learned some things, and the thing that I learned is that I can do a clutch on a pro stock motorcycle, and not do it wrong. We didn't lose any runs because of the job that I did, which I was happy about that. And the day ended up running late, and so that's why I was kind of late getting to you guys. But Steve, so it ended up being a good day. But the backstory on Steve, I've known Steve literally since we were kids. Before both of us were on the NHRA tour, we both loved. I'm gonna say we both love cars. He loves cars, but he likes motorcycles better. I've loved cars, and we literally met out at the street races. This is obviously before Street Outlaws made it cool and kind of trendy to have, be on the street. Well, when we did it, we'd get in trouble. So we needed to get off of the street and get on the racetrack. And that's and we both did that. And so he went that route. His first pro race was in 1987 at Englishtown at the Summer Nationals. And my first pro, like I started on a full-time crew in 1987 at the Winter Nationals. And so I started full-time crewing in 1987 with the aspirations of wanting to drive Top Fuel. And so, I worked for the Larry Minor team, and which was sponsored by Miller at the time, and which Dick LaHaye was in one of the cars. And so, like, having that all, like, kind of go full circle was great. Coming back and racing for Miller, as me as the driver, and having him be the crew chief on the car. He won that championship in 1987 under the Miller banner, and then I got to win two of them, 02 and 03 with LaHaye tuning, and so but full circle. But I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. But your answer was Steve. I've been friends with Steve literally since we were kids, and Jock got hurt as crew chief at the end of the last season, and he's leading the points, and I didn't want to see my friend not be able to take advantage of that opportunities in front of him, and I told him I'd help him in any way possible. So I went to the races. Was I a crew chief? No, but I'm somewhat of a driving coach, and was helping him out on that side of things. And there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of things can go in your head when you're in a title race, and you're trying to help him out with the experiences that I've gone through. I've walked the path that he was walking, and try to do as much as I can. You're helping your friend out. When it comes down to calls me up, coming to Indy, can I help? Yes, I'm helping my friend out. Like, you do whatever you can for your people, and Steve's one of my people. So that ended up being the day to kind of went a little late, so that's why I was a little late getting to your show. So I apologize to you guys and all your fans that are watching your show.
Even Susan told me earlier that Steve even sat on your slept on your couch when you guys were younger.
I didn't quite catch that. It was a little scratchy.
Steve used to crash on your couch.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, you two were roommates, weren't you, back in the day? I mean, back when you were back in Southern California, you roomed together, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's back in the day, you didn't need. I didn't have anything, meaning I didn't have a wife or a girlfriend or kids or a lot. I didn't have a house. I didn't, I get laughed at sometimes. I didn't have any stuff. I literally needed to rent a room. And so I rented a room from Steve's house that I could crash at during the, because we still wintered in California at the time. So, and you could kind of come and go 2 or 3 times during the season. But back, it's different now. Meaning all the teams are based in Brownsburg. And so it's year round. You can buy a home. You can be here, and you travel to a race and you come back home. Well, coming from California, nobody had year-round shops, in the 80s and in the 90s, early 90s. So I just needed to rent a room. That was kind of the town that I when I grew up in. So so for about a year or so, literally, I think it was $300. that was the biggest payment I had at the time. It got $300 a month for renting a room from Steve. I could throw all my bedroom stuff in it, and then we're good for a year. And then Prudhomme, he moved the shop, moved from Northridge because he was over Northridge after the earthquake in '94. So he spent '95 and '96, and he wanted to move south. So then he moved down towards San Diego, and he's got his shop in Vista, which I think he still has now. So it lasted until I had to, chase the shop down to San Diego. So I was down in San Diego for a couple of years, and then I wanted to move full time. I got married, and we're gonna start a family, and I want to be around them all the time. So bought a house and moved to Indianapolis, and that's where I've been since 1999.
Well, now speaking of the fam, how is your wife Allie, and how are the kids? What's going on with them?
Allie is doing real good. We're for some, and she's posted on Facebook and stuff. She, for the better part, a little over a year and a half, she was battling breast cancer. So we've had a few surgeries. We've had chemotherapy. We've had radiation. We've had more surgeries, and we had more surgeries, and we had another surgery, and I went through throat cancer back in 2014, 2015, and let me tell you, it felt like going to the dentist getting your teeth cleaned compared to what she had to go through. And she's strong. She's a fighter, and she's winning. And we're done with treatments. We're done with surgeries, and now we're getting back to our normal problems. Like other things in life. So she's doing real well. Our kids are getting older. I got a daughter in college. My youngest is a freshman in high school on the basketball team, and just got his permit a couple 2-3 weeks ago. So we're living. We're still making things happen. So with or without,
give Allie a free plug here for her business.
So Allie's got on the west side of Indianapolis. She's got a chocolate store that she opened in the at the end of 2017, and it's of a franchise. It's called Chocolate Factory, and it's an outdoor mall in Plainfield, right next door to H&M and Victoria's Secret and stuff. But they literally don't ship anything in. The only thing that they ship in that store is the actual chocolate itself, and then they melt it down and they mold it or dip it or whatever. Everything is done by hand right there at the store. It's very labor intensive, but let me tell you, it's like the best chocolate I've ever had. You definitely get spoiled when you've had some high-end chocolate. And so she's got that store, and she does a lot of corporate orders. She does a lot of walk-in traffic as well. And so she's doing good. Anybody that wants to, she's got a website, Chocolate Factory Westside, again for Indianapolis, and the same thing. She's on Instagram and Facebook and the like, or you can follow her as well too. Allie Dixon, or Allison Dixon on Facebook. So you'll find her if you want chocolate. She ships. If you're across the country, she ships to Jersey, Anthony. So you hit her up. So.
I'm sure the Pony Express comes my way too, so we'll have to get some chocolate out here in Seattle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've had to run. I've delivered orders. I've run to UPS. I've run to FedEx. I've run to the post office as well. So she's not. She doesn't have a select ship. We ship anyway, anyhow, whatever. If it's close, you might have Larry Dixon deliver it to your house even. So
at 330 miles an hour.
Yeah, we try to fly it. We try to fly under the radar. Definitely, hopefully not 330 miles an hour. I try to be pretty safe on the roads. In spite of my reputation, I think I'm a very safe driver on and off the racetrack. So I want to keep it that way.
I don't think you have a bad reputation, so rest assured. Because we won't tell everything we know about you. No, I'm just kidding.
Larry,
So
I want to bring this up because last week we actually had Paige Coughlin on, and you mentioned the Street Outlaws before they became big. They were on the street, and most people don't know when they are doing the taping on the street, they actually get a permit from the town to block off that road and have like a safety crew there. So last week we had Paige Coughlin on, and she's going to be competing on the Street Outlaws No Prep King, a part of the Coughlin family, and she's going to be doing something different than the NHRA. And a lot of Street Outlaw people say that NHRA is dying, but their sport is succeeding. What is your thoughts on all that?
I missed the last part of that.
So all the Street
Susan,
Outlaws say that the
Susan, can you
NHRA
because
is
you're
dying.
Anthony, your reception is really scratchy, and Susan's is crystal clear.
Oh,
He wants to know what you think about the success of the rising popularity of the Street Outlaws versus the plateau or maybe even waning of drag racing in general, of NHRA drag racing.
Well, I mean, what do I think? Well, first of all, I think anybody that is racing, I think is awesome. I wish there was more people, like in any form. There's so many different series, like in drag racing that are popping up, PDRA, and then the ADRL and the Midwest Pro Mod series. There's a lot. There's nostalgia, you know, uh, series. There's the Sega, the Southeastern Gassers that run as well. There's so much racing going on, like, and maybe it's not all at NHRA. And I'm, like, as long as they're racing, I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think everybody in the world knows that, like, the Street Outlaws aren't promoting street racing. Like, they're not. That it's a closed course. It's, like, the Discovery Channel is not going to get involved in something, something reckless, from that standpoint. I mean, roads are blocked off. Like, I mean, let's. There's big companies involved in this. There's insurance involved in it. That nobody's going to let anybody be reckless about things. So, like, let's keep it real from that standpoint. Um, when they put on those No Prep King events, I mean, a lot of people come out. I've gone to them before. I mean, they'll only, they might have 25, 30 cars, maybe 40 on site, and they'll sell. I mean, I've seen pictures of Bristol, with more people in the stands for Street Outlaws than there was for our national event. And that's not saying one is bad and the other is good, or vice versa. What it means is people are flocking to go see them race. And I think, how is that bad? That's, like, awesome. And so you have, you've got another channel on television, Discovery, that is showing drag racing. How is that bad? It's promoting the sport of drag racing. I think that's great. And then so you have other series going up. And, like, what I talk about is you want to know the state of the sport. What you want to feel the pulse of what's going on in drag racing. All you need to do is go to the winter show, the PRI show in Indianapolis. They hold it. It's a trade show. And, anybody that is automotive or in racing, they go to it. And that lets you know the state of the sport. And it's you've got all these vendors there that are selling racing related parts. And you know what? There's tons of vendors. And there's tons of people going to that. And I think it's like, it makes me smile. Like, I mean, from the standpoint that our sport of drag racing is doing great. It may not all be at, like at Gainesville last weekend, but that doesn't mean that the sport is in bad shape. It means that, there's tons of people that are oh my gosh, I forgot Funny Car Chaos. Like, I didn't mention them. They got a huge event going on that, this weekend coming up at Ennis. At the Motorplex. So, like, and so, like, there's things going on all over the country. Drag racing is doing great. Might not all be in one place, but it's all over the place. And I think that's great. So, that's okay. But it's not everybody has to agree with everything, and not everybody, like if you if you go to if you go to a restaurant and they only serve one type of soft drink and it's not your flavor, okay, there's a place across the street that's serving another flavor, and so you go there. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you don't like soda. It means that you're gonna just drink something else somewhere else, but it ain't gonna keep you from drinking soda, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's just it's I think drag racing's in great shape, and I was at the track at Gainesville on Saturday. Froze my rear end off, what's left of it. The sport of NHRA drag racing is doing well. They had a ton of people there, so they're doing good. Funny Car Chaos, they're all their events are doing good. They go to smaller markets where they might not be able to go see the big show guys. So, and then, guys that don't want to be a part of the big show are running, their nitro funny cars, over, at their deal. And people show up and watch that run. And then you've got the Southeastern Gassers and the Midwest Pro Mods. And so, like, there's so much stuff going on in the PDRA. I think it's great. I know I'm going on long-winded about it, but I'm passionate about drag racing. It's like I want to see people have the opportunity to do what they want to do. And it appears that they're doing it all over the place, across the country.
And around the world, because one of your crew guys in Australia just said hello. Chris.
For sure. Yeah. And in Australia, they got a new Top Fuel series going on down there. So it's like, and cars are showing up for it. So it's, I'm more of a lover than a fighter, just settle in on the track.
What time is it over there in the morning for Chris to comment now?
Oh my God. In Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. It would be, well, no, yeah, they'd be, the boys will normally, they'll start texting me or calling me, and I say the boys, like the Rapasardas, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's morning time for them down there the next day. So yeah, they could be watching our show right now, maybe on lunch break or something.
Yeah, Chris, we don't know Chris, if you're still watching, what time of the day is it for you?
There you go.
Yeah, we'll
Chris
see if he comments again.
Yeah, he worked on my car in January.
Larry, there's some new blood in the sport. You have Trip Tandem winning the Gator Nationals recently. You have he previously was a driver for team, and now he brought out his clone card to the touring crew, and he won the Gator Nationals. Last year, you had Josh Hart debut his own operation, and he won 2 races. What are your thoughts on the new people in drag racing that are these single card teams that are kicking butt sometimes?
I think our sport is very cyclical, like meaning like you're always, the one thing constant is change. When Don Prudhomme and Don Garlitz came along, there was other people racing before them, and then they raced, and with Shirley Muldowney. Then after they stopped racing, there was when Don Prudhomme stopped racing, I started driving his car. And then you run for a while, and then I stopped driving. And there's it's Steve. 20 years ago, Steve Torrance wasn't out there racing. That's because he wasn't old enough. So now, like, he's racing and he's doing his thing, and he's going to have a run for a while. Not everybody's John Force, like that, where you're going to do this, from your 20s until, your mid 70s, or a Chris Karamazini's that does it into his 90s. So, so you're going to see some of that change. And so you'll have, you hope, like if you have 1 or 2 drop out, that 1 or 2 pop in, and then everything's good. Where it gets bad is if you have 2 or 3 drop out and only 1 come in, like then you're in trouble. So it's, I think that's the responsibility if we're talking about like the top fuel class, NHRA top fuel class, it's kind of responsibility of the sanctioning body to make sure that we're on top of things and making sure that this is affordable not only to the teams but to companies that want to sponsor in the sport. You got to make sure that there's a proper return for the value, like that there's enough attendance, there's enough ratings, that whatever dollar figure you need to be able to go race, that it will cover it, to be able to get these new guys out there. And Trip Tatum, he puts that team together, and I like following him for the last couple of years since he's got a shop there right across the street from Lucas and Torrance and all that, and watch him kind of put this whole thing together and go out there. And he ran last year a few events, and he did pretty good. And then this year, things just kind of, like it hit for him. And man, he ran good at Phoenix, and then he ran great at Gainesville. I think it's awesome for him, and it gives people that would be discouraged. Like I remember when Kenny Bernstein was leaving, that he was really soured on the multi-car effort, that he thought that was going to hurt it. And if there are people like that out there that think that a multi-car effort, having one team having 4 cars is going to hurt it, well, I think a Josh Hart or a Trip Tatum, it's kind of proof that you can win, without being, part of a multi-car team. So again, it's good for the sport. That now Trip, for Trip to be out there more, I know he's working on trying to find the funding to be able to do that. You can only have so much fun for so long when it's your own money. eventually, you need some help with it, and that's where he's at with it. He wants to make sure he's got a game plan to where he's not going to, run too many events just because he won and he's like running up in the points and all that stuff. It's like, no, just he's shown what he can do. He's got he's got the newest, freshest trophy in the room. So now if he can leverage that, with a company that wants to get involved in the sport, you got a new winner and a proven commodity. And I hope he can, if he does, then I think that's a model that other teams could follow suit as well. It seemed to work well for Josh Hart. He went out there and won, his first race out, and then won later on. And then all of a sudden, then he gets R&L carrier. Now all of a sudden he's going to more events and, like he's part of the tour. So I think it's great. I hope it works for more companies to get involved.
Larry, do you think that this is regarding the sponsorship side? You as a driver, I'm sure you're well aware of this problem that team captains face, where for a weekend, for like the qualifying passes, they could blow through like $200,000 for like 4 passes or so, the parts and everything. So to compete at this high level, it's going to cost a lot of money, and some companies might not be like so forthcoming on putting that money into drag racing. What are your thoughts on how things can change, maybe sponsorship wise?
As far as being able to make it more affordable.
Yes, and maybe have like more teams out there.
If you did a poll and asked 20 people, you're going to get 20 different answers. So I'm going to give you my answer, not the world's, not the gospel, but just mine. Things that I think that you could do that I've seen in my experience out there shopping. If there were less events, if there were 16 or 18 events on the tour, that would knock 25. I mean, just doing basic math, that's going to drop 25%, minimum off of what you would need for a budget, just because you're not going to 25% of the races. So that would be helpful. 2-day events, I think would be helpful. I think that we're, again, this is my opinion, so you want to beat me up, fine, but I think that we've seen in other forms of motorsports, I can use the month of, it used to be the month of May, and people were at Indianapolis for the entire month for one race. Well, you know what? It ain't a month of May anymore. It's a few weekends in May, and one of them happens to be another race, the Grand Prix. So it's like, there's so many options and opportunities for everybody in the world to be doing other things, that you have to recognize that and make sure that you're catering to your customer. And I think that if there was one day of qualifying, say 3 runs, and then, one day of racing, if you had multiple days, maybe cater to your sportsman competitors, to where they have their days, in the sun, where it's all about them and they can run their event, and then just make it, like during the early part of the year and the end part of the year, you've got a Saturday and a Sunday show. Saturday qualifying, Sunday, an event. During the summer months, maybe, where it makes sense, that you do Friday afternoon, Friday night qualifying, and then you come back on Saturday, you start first round, Saturday afternoon, and you go into Saturday night racing. Like I know as a kid growing up, and, I don't know that there's probably not anybody left in the sanctioning body that was around for those type of events that I grew up on and watched my dad and all my heroes race at, the Don Garlitzes, the Don Prudhommes, the Shirley Muldownys. They were Saturday night races. In our sport, with the header flames, there isn't another motorsport in the world that has that, and I think that we should freaking, just grab onto that and take advantage of that. There's so many products. Starbucks has nitro coffee. Like, are you serious? Like, what's nitro about coffee? And not to beat them up, but we're like, Top Fuel and Funny Cars are the only thing that actually have nitro in them. There's nitro beers, and there's nitro boats, and there's nitro this, and we're the only, Top Fuel and Funny Cars are the only ones that actually run on nitro. Like, so we ought to take that and run with it, and take advantage of it. And if our cars put out these header flames, and night qualifying doesn't make sense to what happens on Sunday, well then, you know what? Let's make a show that makes it make sense. Friday night qualifying, Saturday night racing, and if it rains out, then you got a Sunday rain out date, there's, or you can offer Sunday for testing, for the next event. Like, let's do things to keep up with our sport, our demographic, our fan. Everybody needs instant gratification. They need that. They need the answers right now with the phone. Like, people, that's why we don't run, 4-day, back in the day we ran 4-day events, and then it got condensed to 3-day events. Well, maybe it's time to look at 2-day events and doing it more. And I know that there's there'll be pushback from the sanctioning body. There'll be pushback from the tracks because they want 3 days of gate. But if we can make a home run on those 2 days that they have, then it would make sense. It would make sense for the labor. It would make sense from the teams, like your overhead of 3 days of hotel rooms and your travel. You're cutting out 24 days of travel, right off the bat, just by dropping a day, that's gonna make a dent. But really send a home run, have a Friday night qualifying and Saturday night racing. Or if it's too early in the year or too late in the year to do that, well then Saturday qualifying, Sunday race day. I mean, just listen to your fan, listen to your customer, and if it makes sense, that's what you need to do. I think that we have a great opportunity for people to fill grandstands. The Funny Car Chaos, they run on Saturday night. The Southeastern Gassers, they're 1-2 day events. Most all other series are 2-day events, and maybe that's might be something to look at to help the teams be able to help find the corporate sponsorship, if I could go into a corporate, if I could go to a corporation and tell them that I could race for a championship for less than $2 million, I'm going to have people listen to me, because it's, like if that number is, closer to 3, or maybe, some guys are encroaching 4 million, and you could go in there for a lot less, because now you have less events, and less days at those events. I know I can do a great job for a company for, way less than $2 million. And if you go back, gosh, when Miller Brewing, when I was part of Miller Brewing Company, when they came back into the sport in my rookie year, 1995, we had less events, and they did it for less than $2 million then. And by the time they got out of the sport, it was over $3 million. So if you could bring it back to those less than $2 million numbers, you might have other companies' ears. I don't know. It's worth trying. Like you got to do so. Like, I love the sport. I want to see it keep thriving and being great. And I think that you'd find all the events have title sponsors as well too. If there were less to choose from, because if there's less to choose from, then maybe you drive the price up for the ones that you do have, and now you're commanding a bigger dollar for it. Supply and demand. You gotta be on the right side of the supply and demand for everybody, for the companies, and for your customer as well.
Susan, do you have any
That's
last questions for Larry?
I just love your
That's
ideas. I just wish you were a decision maker there in Indianapolis or San Dimas or wherever they're making those decisions now.
He's taking a good no.
But see, I don't, like, if I talk to any of the other sanctioning bodies, they're going to tell me their side of the story. Like, I'm not living in their shoes. So like, I'm not speaking on their behalf. That's why I wanted to open up. This is just my opinion. That's what I see out of, people that I talk to.
And I do think in NHRA's defense, some of the costs that have escalated over the last few years even have, NHRA has no control over them. The price of fuel, the price of diesel, the price of nitro, the price of hotels and airfare and that sort of thing. They, and I talked to Antron about that, and he said, we really have got to stop talking about what we can do about cutting those costs, because we can't, and we need to think about how to bring in more money. And I think there's a whole lot of different pieces to that puzzle, and it's not there's no easy answer. But I love your ideas.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. And like, so now they have 3 qualifying sessions. So there's 1 on Friday at some of the events, and then you have 2 on Saturday. And so then you hear pushback like, well, I'm not going to go on Friday because they're only going to get 1 run. So now you're going to lose that person. Now all of a sudden, if you came back and said, hey, come back on Saturday, you got 3 runs. Now you're giving the fan or your customer more value on a single day.
Right.
And now the teams are saving money because you're there for 1 day less. Like all of the employees, that are running the event, you're paying them 1 day less. You're doing all these things 1 day less, and everybody's cutting back. And then all of a sudden, now you go into a Saturday, or even if you had 2-day shows, Friday, Saturday, you're going to get 3 qualifiers on 1 day. Holy, like, wow, that'd be awesome. Now they're getting more bang for their buck, and now all of a sudden maybe they're excited about it.
And the volume for the track operators, they could operate for 2 days, and the volume that they would get would make up for, they'd be getting at least the same and maybe more than what they got for a 3-day deal. So
yeah,
like you said,
and I think where you'd always see, it always seemed like when I was on the tour, and I'm not on the tour anymore, but it seemed like Friday crowd was decent, Saturday crowd was packed, and then the Sunday crowd was decent. Well, if you remarket that into where you only got 2 days, you've only got race day, and you only got a qualifying day, you pick your days, well, there's less choices involved. So now you're going to take your customer, and they're going to decide like, hey, we're either going to go watch qualifying, or if we have such a great time qualifying, maybe we're going to go both days, like in 2 days, instead of trying to pick 2 of the 3 days, or one day. If I can only go one day, what day am I going to go? That kind of stuff. And just try and be more concise with it. I think you might, and you'd have to do it to see, and you'd have to give it a chance to see how it plays out year one, and then again year two, because then people, because you're going to every town one time, and it takes a year to go back and to see if it made a difference. I'd be people might like it.
And I like the fewer races too. I was talking to Corey Mack a couple of years ago, and I said, "What if we cut back to 18 races?" Or he goes, "That's what it was when I came in," and it worked great. So I think it's the pro stock people at first, when they cut back to the number. I think this is it 18 races now, maybe 16. I can't remember, but I think it's 18. But at first there was this outcry like, "Oh, you're really punishing this class," but I think it's manageable and they like it. The pro mod people liked having a shorter schedule because it's manageable with what they do normally, because there are a lot of them have their own businesses.
Yeah, and then again, it's you go supply and demand. Then all of a sudden, it's like, if these places are like selling out, and then tracks are upgrading, and you've got nicer facilities to go to. Then maybe you do add a race or something like that, but get it to where you're on the other side of things. I guess where there's so many. Gosh, we need to get more teams out here, because we got so many companies that want to sponsor nitro cars. Wow, what an awesome problem that would be. Let's get on that side of it, and then the same thing with the title rights. The events as well too. That you're making sure that all of them are solid, and they're getting a good premium on the rate for and we're all delivering on what we're selling. Like we're delivering. We're putting on a great show. There's plenty of cars. And you just want to be on that side of it. I think that would help. I mean, if there was, it would excite me. I mean, right now I know that I don't have. I know I don't have what it takes to be able to come up with a program for a 24 event schedule. But if or 23 events or 22, but if it was 16, 18 events, wow, that would open the doors to companies that are priced out right now. I mean, you do the math backwards on how much volume sales you have to do to be able to take advantage of spending, a couple, $2 or $3 million on a nitro car, and then they have to have enough marketing budget to be able to take advantage of that nitro car going to all these events, because you've got to be able to execute this car, or this team that's out there. So it really costs a lot of money. So you add up how much money it actually costs to do it, and then how many hundreds of millions of dollars do we have to have in sales to be able to afford a 2 or 3 to the team, 2 or 3 in the marketing budget to be able to execute what we're doing with that team. You gotta sell a lot of volume to be able to do that. And it's like, if you could cut those numbers in half, then maybe you're going to double the amount of companies that could be involved in the sport to be able to do that.
And I think you're seeing a lot of cars. I know John Force is starting to go to it, where there's multiple sponsors during the year. NASCAR does it, and I think now NHRA is starting to follow suit a little bit more. You see that too. You're not.
Yeah, you're just trying. You're trying to find ways to be in the green at the end of the. John Force doesn't race as a hobby. He races as a business, and he's got to operate in the green to stay in business. And for all the other teams, the ones that are operating, Ron Capps, Antron Brown, they're running that's a business for them. That ain't a hobby for them. So it's like, you need to make sure that you can operate your business within these parameters. And you really need, you really have to be working with the sanctioning body and the rule package to make sure that you can operate within your means and still be competitive.
And I think Cruz Pedregon he's done this for so long on his own that has a really good business model of how this is a business. A race team is a business. You can't depend on the purse or whatever. You have to find your own constant stream of revenue, which technically I guess is like sponsorship. This is a business. You have to have money coming in regardless of where the purse is too. And that's another whole issue, which maybe we'll have you on again so you can talk about all these other issues that we're bringing out. So
no, I enjoyed the time. Like, I hope I didn't wear you out. Hope I didn't make anyone mad out there listening. But I've always told the truth. So, like, if you don't like the answer, don't ask me the question. But I don't think I love what you guys are doing. I love the fact that you're talking about drag racing and you wanted to talk to me. So I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Oh gosh, we just are so thrilled you came on. I'm sorry, Anthony, I talked over the top of you here.
It's all good. So Larry, thanks again for your time tonight. We're gonna let you momentarily get back to your wife and your kids at home. I don't know if you still have to help Steve Johnson maybe tomorrow or the next 2 days, but good luck with that. Maybe we'll see you at a track soon. For everyone who's watching this, outside of being on Facebook and YouTube right now, this will be uploaded on Rumble and BitChute later, and also be converted into a podcast form on Anchor.fm in the coming days. Thanks again, Larry, for your time tonight, and hopefully we'll see you at track soon.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Care.
Hi to the fam.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.